Why does homelessness keep rising in Oregon, even though it's a wealthy state, with progressive policies? Oregon, known for its stunning landscapes, is also facing one of the highest rates of homelessness in America. As cities like Portland continue to expand, the number of people without homes keeps climbing, creating a crisis that leaves many puzzled. What's causing this rise? Is it just the soaring cost of living, or is there something more complex going on? In this video, we take a closer look at the underlying reasons behind Oregon's homelessness crisis, breaking down the many factors that fuel this growing problem. Stay tuned to discover the real story behind this ongoing challenge. Understanding the homelessness crisis in Oregon.
As much as they can. The city doesn't want to recognize the fact that we've got a serious problem. I've actually seen regular families, women that have got kids out here sleeping in tents.
Homelessness in Oregon has reached alarming levels, with around 22,875 people now living without stable housing. This represents a sharp rise of 20% over the last 5 years. The problem isn't limited to just one area. While Portland, Oregon's largest city, is at the center of the crisis, smaller towns and rural regions are also seeing growing numbers of people without homes. Is homelessness in Oregon simply a byproduct of urban growth, or is there something deeper fueling this trend? The reasons behind homelessness in Oregon are complex. Skyrocketing housing costs are a major driver, with rent increases far outpacing wage growth. For many, owning a home or even renting an affordable apartment remains out of reach. But is housing the only factor, or do systemic issues play a significant role as well? Alongside the lack of affordable housing, mental health struggles and substance abuse contribute heavily to the problem.
I'd say when if I'm not doing fentanyl, which is my current drug of choice, I'm an alcoholic. But I'm not really into weed anymore. In my teenage years, I dabbled in a lot of psychedelics, like mind expansions.
A large number of Oregon's homeless individuals face untreated mental health conditions and addiction, making it extremely difficult to find stable housing or hold down a job. Can the state's current mental health and addiction programs really handle this scale of need, or are they falling short? While homelessness is a national issue, Oregon's situation is particularly striking. The mix of rising housing costs, an overburdened mental health system, and insufficient support services has created a perfect storm that only worsens the crisis. How can Oregon break this cycle? State efforts to fight homelessness have seen limited results, and despite multiple programs, housing assistance and support services still fail to meet the demand. Will Oregon manage to reverse this trend, or is the crisis only going to intensify? The dangerous link between mental health and addiction. A major factor driving homelessness in Oregon, as well as across the United States, is the complicated link between mental health struggles and substance abuse. Many people experiencing homelessness also live with untreated mental health conditions. From anxiety and depression to more severe disorders like schizophrenia and PTSD, these challenges make it extremely difficult to maintain stable housing. Addiction makes matters even worse. Substance use, especially involving opioids, methamphetamines, and alcohol, is common among Oregon's homeless population.
Oh yeah, I use fentanyl slash tranq, and I don't like it. I hate it. It's a disease. It's a drug that you just can't just stop. You have to do it every couple of hours. You get sick as a dog, and I mean sick. Like I have part of my tongue missing because I had a seizure. It is not a good withdrawal at all. It's scary.
The rise in fentanyl-related addiction has been particularly alarming, further intensifying the crisis. Those struggling with addiction often find it hard to hold jobs or manage money, increasing their risk of losing housing. Unfortunately, Oregon's mental health and addiction treatment programs are not equipped to meet the growing demand. Many homeless individuals face overlapping challenges, mental health disorders coupled with substance use problems that they cannot overcome on their own. A lack of affordable, accessible healthcare only makes the situation worse, leaving too many without the support they need. This gap in care creates a vicious cycle, trapping individuals in an ongoing struggle between mental health crises and addiction, which deepens their homelessness. Can Oregon break this cycle, or will the problem continue to grow? While the state has launched programs aimed at mental health and addiction treatment, these efforts are often underfunded and lack the resources to make a meaningful difference. The connection between mental health addiction and homelessness is clear, and without comprehensive, well-funded interventions, the crisis is unlikely to improve. Tackling the root causes of homelessness in Oregon requires a coordinated approach that combines mental health services, addiction recovery support, and affordable housing, giving people a real chance to escape homelessness. Policy changes and the opioid epidemic's role in Oregon's homelessness. Changes in both state and federal policies have played a major role in worsening homelessness in Oregon. Historically, the state has passed progressive laws aimed at addressing homelessness. However, several recent policy changes have had unintended consequences that have further fueled the crisis. The opioid epidemic, especially the rise of fentanyl, has hit the homeless population particularly hard. Data from the Oregon Health Authority shows that opioid overdoses have surged, with a disproportionate number of people experiencing homelessness struggling with opioid addiction. This epidemic has strained local resources and stretched the already underfunded healthcare system to its limits. Although programs like needle exchanges and harm reduction initiatives exist, they have not been enough to slow the growing wave of opioid-related homelessness. At the same time, Oregon's decriminalization of certain drugs, particularly through Measure 110, passed in 2020, has reduced arrests for drug-related offenses. The goal of this policy was to lessen the burden on the criminal justice system and treat addiction as a public health issue rather than a crime. However, it has also raised concerns about how to balance addiction treatment with the effects of decriminalization. Critics argue that the policy was not paired with enough support services such as rehab and mental health programs, leaving many people without the help they need. Oregon's approach to homelessness and addiction is therefore a delicate balancing act. While the state has made some efforts to provide support and rehabilitation for those struggling with addiction, the resources available remain far below what is needed. Without proper coordination and oversight, the state's homeless population continues to grow. One has to ask, is Oregon's strategy helping, or is it unintentionally worsening the problem? Treating addiction as a public health issue is a step in the right direction, but without a comprehensive plan that addresses both the root causes of homelessness and the immediate needs of homeless individuals, the crisis persists. The lack of adequate mental health and addiction recovery services means many people are not getting the treatment they need to recover and rebuild their lives. How COVID-19 has affected homelessness in Oregon. The COVID-19 pandemic created unprecedented challenges for communities across the globe, and Oregon was no exception. One of the most serious consequences of the pandemic has been the worsening of homelessness in the state. As businesses closed, unemployment spiked, and entire industries stalled, many Oregonians lost their steady income. For those already living on the edge, the pandemic became the tipping point, pushing them into homelessness. While job losses affected many people during the pandemic, those living paycheck to paycheck were hit the hardest. The eviction moratorium implemented early in the pandemic prevented landlords from forcing tenants out, but it only postponed the problem. Once the moratorium ended, many families and individuals could not catch up on rent and were forced to leave their homes. Federal stimulus checks and enhanced unemployment benefits provided temporary relief, but for many, this support was not enough to secure stable housing. Beyond job loss and financial strain, the pandemic also severely restricted access to critical services. Shelters and community centers, which provide essential lifelines for homeless individuals, were forced to close or operate at limited capacity due to COVID-19 restrictions. With these resources unavailable, many people were left without shelter and without access to healthcare, food, and other crucial support. In some areas, tents and makeshift shelters began to appear as homeless individuals had no choice but to seek refuge in public spaces. The pandemic also took a heavy toll on the mental health of those experiencing homelessness. Isolation, fear of infection, and limited access to mental health care intensified the emotional and psychological strain on the homeless population. The lack of social connections and inability to get treatment for existing mental health conditions increased feelings of hopelessness and despair. Uncertainty caused by the pandemic only deepened the trauma many were already facing. After COVID-19 hit, the number of homeless individuals in Oregon continued to climb. Cities like Portland, Eugene, and Salem saw sharp increases in people living in tents under bridges or in other temporary accommodations. The pandemic added another layer of complexity to Oregon's homelessness crisis. As the state began to recover from the economic and health impacts of COVID-19, addressing homelessness became an even more urgent challenge. the shortage of affordable housing. One of the biggest and longest-standing challenges driving homelessness in Oregon is the severe lack of affordable housing. Over the last few decades, the state's population has grown rapidly, especially in cities like Portland. This growth, combined with limited new housing development, has created a serious shortage of affordable homes and apartments for low-income individuals and families. Several factors contribute to Oregon's affordable housing shortage. First, the high cost of land and construction materials makes it difficult for developers to build housing that is affordable for low-income residents. Second, zoning rules and land use regulations in many areas limit the land available for development, particularly for multi-family housing. In cities like Portland, where demand is especially high, building new homes often costs more than what low-income families can realistically afford. Oregon's homelessness crisis isn't just about people not being able to pay for housing, it's also about the lack of available units. Even those with steady jobs often struggle to find affordable options, making permanent housing nearly impossible to secure. The state has taken some steps, such as issuing housing bonds and launching affordable housing programs, but the scale of the need far exceeds what these measures can cover. The number of people looking for affordable housing continues to climb, yet the supply remains far too small to meet the demand. Certain groups are hit hardest by the shortage, including seniors on fixed incomes, single-parent households, and people with disabilities. These groups face extra challenges in finding housing that is both affordable and meets their specific accessibility needs. In recent years, Oregon has tried to expand affordable housing availability through targeted initiatives, but these efforts still fall short of keeping up with growing demand. Without major investments and changes to zoning and land use policies, the lack of affordable housing will continue to be one of the main drivers of homelessness, and the problem is only likely to worsen. Limitations of Oregon's social safety nets. Oregon has put in place several social safety nets to support people experiencing homelessness, but these programs are often underfunded and stretch beyond capacity. Government efforts like temporary shelters, food assistance, and medical care are crucial for providing immediate help to individuals and families in crisis. Yet in reality, these resources often fall short of meeting the growing demand. With more people becoming homeless every day, the system is pushed to its limits. Why do these safety nets designed to help the most vulnerable seem unable to keep pace with the expanding crisis? The main problem is that Oregon's social safety nets were not built to tackle the underlying causes of homelessness. While they provide critical short-term support, they do little to help people escape the cycle of homelessness. Programs such as emergency shelters and food services offer temporary relief, but they do not address the core issues of affordable housing, mental health, and addiction that keep individuals trapped on the streets. How can Oregon move beyond temporary fixes and work toward lasting solutions? Currently, the state's support systems are fragmented, especially for people facing multiple challenges at once. For those struggling with mental health issues and substance abuse while also lacking stable housing, existing services often fail to provide sufficient help. What happens when the very system meant to assist people is disconnected and inadequate? The absence of integrated solutions that combine housing with mental health and addiction care means many individuals never receive the comprehensive support they need. Accessing these safety nets is also often difficult. Long waiting lists, red tape, and strict eligibility requirements create additional barriers. For instance, emergency shelters, while essential, are frequently overcrowded. People seeking refuge can sometimes wait weeks or even months before finding a bed or moving into stable housing. These delays can deepen trauma and make it even harder for individuals to rebuild their lives. Could it be that the system as it currently operates unintentionally reinforces the very problem it's meant to solve? Ultimately, while Oregon's social safety nets are vital for short-term relief, they fall short in addressing the long-term needs of the homeless population. To make real progress, the state must reform and expand these programs to provide comprehensive, lasting support. This means investing more in mental health care, addiction recovery, and affordable housing, giving individuals the tools and stability they need to escape homelessness. Without these reforms, the state will continue to face a persistent homelessness crisis, despite its best intentions. A personal reflection on homelessness in America. Looking back over the years, it's hard not to feel both frustration and sadness about the state of homelessness in America. Having witnessed the growth of this crisis, especially in cities like Portland and across Oregon, I can't help but feel we've fallen short in addressing the deeper issues. This isn't just about a lack of affordable housing, though that's certainly a big part of it. It's also about the weakening of community, where those in need are often overlooked or ignored. When I was younger, there seemed to be a stronger sense of responsibility to help people who were struggling. Today, it often feels like far too many are left to navigate these challenges on their own, particularly when facing mental health issues or addiction. These are the core drivers of homelessness problems we can't solve with more shelters or temporary measures alone. The homelessness crisis is ultimately a reflection of systemic failures. Without solutions that truly tackle mental health, addiction, and the lack of affordable housing, this cycle is bound to continue. We need more than just short-term assistance. We need thoughtful, long-term strategies that help people regain stability. Homelessness isn't simply a number or a statistic, it's a societal failure. As I think about it, I keep asking myself, when did we stop caring? And more importantly, when will we take meaningful action to address it? The time to act is now. Conclusion. The homelessness crisis in Oregon is a complicated challenge that reflects the wider issue of homelessness in America. Although the state has taken steps to tackle the problem, the shortage of affordable housing, gaps in mental health and addiction services, and underfunded social safety nets continue to drive the crisis forward. To create real change, Oregon needs comprehensive solutions that address the root causes of homelessness and offer long-term support for those affected. Without these critical reforms, the situation will only get worse, leaving more people without a stable place to call home.